Hello, everyone. Guys, oh my God. Okay, so I want to just start off this live stream by saying if I look a little disheveled, a little persnickety, as it were, if I swear a little bit more today than I usually do, and you all know that I'm usually not, I usually don't avoid the swear words, the cuss words, if you will, it is because I have spent my entire day reading the second half of this cursed book. And I want to do a couple things on this live stream. First thing I want to do is I want to drink. I'm going to drink. I have my wine. Now, I specifically, this is the La Belle Winery dry blueberry wine. This is a winery that's actually like right up the street from my house. They do a lot of awesome fruit wines, and Victor and I did a wine tasting last week in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and it was pretty awesome. We bought a whole bunch of bottles, and you know, Victor predictably has already drank some of the bottles, and so he had to go out and replace it. Specifically, he was like, "Carlin, are you going to do happy hour live stream?" And I said, probably. So that's what I'm drinking. Now, I specifically, the last couple happy hour live streams that I have done champagne or Prosecco or something white and sparkly, and that's generally where I have. But since I just read White Fragility today, I wanted to get a darker color of wine, because as I have learned in White Fragility, black is the opposite of white, and white people, if they view themselves as good, they view black as bad, and the only way to combat your white fragility is to sit in your discomfort and view things that are black. Is good. That's pretty black, right? That's pretty black as blueberry wine. So, yeah. I'm sure there's something to be said for the fact that I'm about to consume it. This is also really big. Just so you guys have like scale, this wine glass might be like almost as big as my head. I can actually fit almost a whole bottle of wine in this wine glass. But we're going to start off with half a bottle. And of course, I have the entire bottle here, should we need some more. And if you're drinking along with me, you know, please share in the chat. What are you drinking today? You know, what have you got in your glass, or what will you be drinking? We'll see. It is a tasty beverage. We're gonna need a lot more than that. So that was the first reason that I wanted to have this live stream, was of course it's Friday, happy hour drink. Oh, student of history is drinking apple pie moonshine. Guys, I don't know like if any of you drink mead, but there is I forget the name of the dang mead company, but in New Hampshire there's a place that makes mead that's like that they do like a Jack's apple pie mead. It's like the best thing I've ever had in my life. So the second reason we're doing this stream is because I'm going to complain. I'm going to talk about the bullshit that's in this book, because this book is crazy. And I got to say, like, so we are only going to be focusing on the second half of White Fragility today, because I already did a video covering the first half of the book. So you can, if you want the first half, you can go do the video. And basically it starts with a video of me breaking down as I descended into madness. And that actually I really wasn't being dramatic. I really did descend into madness reading this book, as you're going to see on this stream. I wasn't just doing it for dramatic purposes. It was real. And I can absolutely understand how people get caught up in this craziness, because it is crazy. So I'm going to talk about what is in the second half of this book. I'm going to do a lot of complaining. I'm going to do a lot of ranting. I will do my very best to try to answer questions that you have about the book or what you need to know about it, because I've taken one for the team. I have read the book for you. I know what's in it. I understand what's in it. It is incredibly toxic. And so that's what we're going to do. But I just want to start off, actually, no, before I even do that, I want to start off by saying, for people who are new to me, maybe you've just stumbled upon this, you're new to my stream, here is my philosophy when it comes to race. I do not believe in treating people differently because of the color of their skin. Full stop. I do not believe in treating people differently because of the color of their skin, whether they are the same color skin as I do, or they have a different color skin as I do, or any combination. I just don't believe it's good. I don't believe it's healthy. I believe that human beings are so much more complex and nuanced, and frankly, much more interesting than the color of their skin. And this to me, you know, I'll steal Dave Rubin's term on this. This to me seems very, very regressive. You know, growing up for me, what I learned on all the TV shows growing up, all the after school specials, is you do not treat people differently. You treat everyone the same. And by the way, that doesn't just go for skin. It goes for gender. It goes for sexual orientation. It goes for, you know, if you're trans or if you're cis. It goes for if you are an immigrant. Like all of it is like I treat everyone the same. That is my rule. Okay. And one of the reasons I'm so offended by this book is fundamentally it tells you that you should treat people differently based on the color of your skin. And it even goes further than that. It says that if you are white, you are racist from the time you were born. You were racist and you will always be racist, and you can never not be racist. That is what this book says. So I've already seen a couple super chats come in, guys. I really am going to try my very best to get to all the super chats because I really am very, very appreciative of them. Let's just get to the two that have come in so far. From David, are you ready to denounce the white hetero Western racist anti-gay blah 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 blah? Yeah. I think that's pretty clear, right? And then Tammy, you're wonderful. I'm so thankful for your balanced commentary. I appreciate that, Tammy, very, very much. So I just want to start off this conversation. I'm going to read something to you from pages 149 and 150 in the book. And these pages, of course, are at the very end of the book. It's the conclusion of the book. Most people who read this book are not going to get this far into this book. So I think it's the perfect place to start this entire conversation, because she gives her cards away very, very clearly at the end. This is under the heading. I'm just going to show it to you. It's under the heading, A Positive White Identity. That's what we're going to read. And she says, there are so many approaches to do to anti-racist work. One of them is to try to develop a positive white identity. Those who promote this approach often suggest we develop this positive identity by reclaiming the cultural heritage that was lost during assimilation into whiteness from European ethnics. However, a positive white identity is an impossible goal. White identity is inherently racist. White people do not exist outside the system of white supremacy. This does not mean that we should stop identifying as white and start claiming only to be Italian or Irish. To do so is to deny the reality of racism in the here and now, and this denial would simply be colorblind racism. Rather, I strive to be less white. To be less white is to be racially oppressive. This requires me to be racially aware, to be better educated about racism, and to continually challenge racial certitude and arrogance. To be less white is to be open to, interested in, and compassionate towards racial realities of people of color. I'm just kind of wondering, what do you all think about what I just read? About the fact that she asserts in this book, and remember, this is a white lady who wrote this book and is making millions and millions of dollars writing this crap. What do you guys think about the fact that she says a positive white identity is an impossible goal? White identity is inherently racist. White people do not exist outside the system of white supremacy. I'm just curious about what you all think of that. I'm going to wait for a second and see if you type some answers into the chat. But in the meantime, I'm really going to try to go back to the super chats and see what you all have to say. Wiggles says, try reading the Necronomicon next. I actually did read the Necronomicon. I read it a long, long time ago. Alex says, I'm doing an analysis of rules for radicals currently. I feel your pain. I do actually want to read that at some point, but I need to take a little bit of a break. And Holly says, I couldn't make it through the entirety of that book. Props to you for being able to stand it. I just found your channel a couple weeks ago, and you're easily one of my new favorite commentators. Thank you, Holly. I really appreciate that. I really, really, really do. Even though I'm a little persnickety today, guys, I might not be as grateful as I usually try to be to these sorts of things, but it's been a really long day. I also want to mention too that the thing that got me through this book was I just kept eating these Goya cookies. Like, every time I came to something, like I like half a pack of cookies. And then I had Mexican food promptly after that. Yeah, people saying I'm speechless. She sounds racist. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Robin DiAngelo repeatedly throughout this book admits her own racism. Repeatedly. It's absolutely insane that, I think, yeah, Tracy actually hit the nail on the head. Tracy says DiAngelo is bananas. This woman is nuts. She really is. This woman, my impression of Robin DiAngelo is that she was brought up, and I could be wrong about this. If anyone has information about Robin DiAngelo's background, please let me know, because I could actually be wrong about this. But I believe, based on what I read in the book, I believe that she was raised kind of like a sheltered white existence where she really just didn't interact with people of color all that much. And so she was actually raised and had, to be blunt, racist tendencies. She talks about her racist tendencies throughout the entire book. She gives examples of her racist tendencies. She gives examples of how when she went to a potluck for one of her friends, and the potluck was in a park, and there were two different parties, and one of the parties was a black part, mostly black, and one of the parties was mostly white, and she got nervous because she thought maybe my friend had invited a lot of black people, and she felt nervous. She's racist. The woman is racist. And what I think that this book is her confessing her own sins in hopes that they will be absolved, and she will be blessed to go on with her life as a racist white lady. The new IKB says you should read and listen to The Politically Incorrect Guide to the British Empire. It'll make you feel normal again. I might take you up on that, dude. Colette, thank you for the super chat. I'm not going to put that on the screen because I might get in trouble for it. And God knows I'm probably already skirting the YouTube line by doing this live stream anyway. RS says, white fragility cancels itself out. If white people are always racist, then the author is racist, which in turn makes white fragility racist. Yes, this is an incredibly racist book. None of us pick the color of our skin. Why does it have to be this way? Well, she actually talks about that. Actually, let me see if I can find where she talks about it, because it was reasonably towards the end of the book. Oh, here's a line. Actually, you know what? No, we're going to save that. What I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to go through the tweets. Maybe I can even just, there we go. I'm going to just go through some of the tweets that I made, because I was tweeting about this stuff literally all day, to give you guys the opportunity to see exactly what I was seeing. And every time I tweet about something, I do a screen cap of it. So let's just start at the start of what I found. So this was starting around chapter 6. You see, this was 5 hours ago. So I've spent the last 5 hours working on this. This is a section in which she says, racism is complex and nuanced, and its manifestations are not the same for every group of color. To challenge the ideologies of racism, such as individualism, color, and colorblindness, we as white people must suspend our perception of ourselves as unique and/or outside of our race. Exploring the collective racial identity interrupts a key privilege of dominance, the ability to see oneself as an individual. So much to unpack there, right? But what she's essentially saying here, this is very reminiscent of, this is probably part of one of the places where, what was it, the Smithsonian, the National Museum of African American History and Culture, with that stupid chart that they just put down that, if you didn't see that, I did a video about it the other day, which basically listed all the attributes of whiteness. What they're essentially saying here is that if white people view themselves as an individual rather than as part of a collective, that's racist. And if a white person views themselves as an individual rather than, again, as part of the collective, that is a sign of dominance. And dominance is a key part of white culture and white fragility. So that's our first of many crazy nonsense. Okay. In this next one, Robin DiAngelo writes, however, I believe that in the white mind, Black people are the ultimate racial other, and we must grapple with this relationship, for it is a foundational aspect of the racial socialization underlying white fragility. So what D'Angelo is essentially doing here is she only writes about Black people in this book. She does not write about Latino people. She does not write about Asian people. Not write about Indian people. She does not write about Native Americans. In fact, she tells a story of about a woman who works very closely with Native Americans who got very mad at Robin DiAngelo for only talking about Black people and not talking about the way that white people have treated Native Americans, which I actually think is a really good point. And Robin DiAngelo got mad at her and basically said, you're only coming up here and telling me off about how I didn't talk about Native Americans because of your white fragility. That was how she explained it. It was all the woman's right fragility. It was not that Robin DiAngelo did anything. It was all white fragility. That's not a wine glass. That is a sparklets bottle. I don't know what that is, but I'm going to say that that's a good thing. For more Goya. Guys, I love the Goya black beans, and I love the Goya yellow rice. The yellow rice is, I put the yellow rice in burritos like all the time. It's the best. Live Free says guilt is a lucrative business and it allows a select group to control white people through this highly emotionality and guilt. Someone who can activate this kind of stuff, this kind of guilt over others owns them. You know, it's funny. She actually touches upon that. We're going to see this a little bit later in the stream. She actually touches upon that where she says flat out in the book, some people think I'm taking advantage of white guilt in the work that I do, but I just don't think that's the case for reason X, Y, B, and Z. So she does actually talk about that. But again, it's like if you confess your sins, you're going to be absolved of them under white fragility. Kendra says, why would anyone take advice from a self-admitted racist? I generally try to avoid racist people. Kendra, I think that this is a fantastic question. Hang on, I'm just going to bring myself back. This is a fantastic question because one of the things that is so striking to me about this book is it is obvious. It is obvious that Robin DiAngelo is racist. Now, listen, if she lived a sheltered white girl life and she had certain feelings about being around different people of color, she wasn't used to interacting with them. Maybe she didn't have many Black friends. Listen, I mean, I can understand that. I really can, and I can forgive that. What I cannot forgive is the fact that instead of dealing with her own baggage, what Robin DiAngelo has done is to create an entire business, a multi-million-dollar business. Guys, this book was the #1 book in America. I don't know if it still is, but it definitely was. #1 book in America 2 years after it was published. This woman has created a multi-million-dollar business in which she is laughing all the way to the bank by convincing white people that they are all racist and they will always be racist. And the only thing that they can do to combat their racism is to listen to Robin DiAngelo, who is a racist. Like, I can't even. The gall of this woman, instead of doing her own work, instead of looking at herself, trying to deal with her own baggage, to use the platform that she has to convince people of this nonsense, it is ridiculous. It is, I don't know who she sold her soul to. And I don't know, the thing that really bothers me is I don't know why other people can't see it. And I don't know why. The thing that really worries me is why are organizations buying into this? Organizations are buying into this. The government is buying into this. I don't know if you guys saw the Twitter thread from Chris Rufo, who I'm trying to schedule for a live chat on this channel. We're actually in communication. We're just trying to figure out the day. So we'll have a chat at some point. But Chris Rufo on Twitter has been tweeting out documents he got from the US government that showed that the government, our government, with our tax dollars, has paid over $5 million for this type of training, with the stated goal of indoctrinating everyone in the government into anti-racism. That's terrifying. If you aren't terrified by that, man, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. Let's see. I know a whole bunch of other super chats have come in, and I just really want to make sure I acknowledge them. There is a lot of the issue, isn't it? The projection of these people's racism onto everyone else. They assume everyone must have the same thoughts they do on skin and culture because they do. Yeah, that's absolutely right. They're projecting their own racist attitudes onto everyone else. Yes, let the anger flow. Oh, we're just getting started. We're just let's all drink, shall we? If you're drinking right now, take a sip. All right, let's see. The author is trying to convince others that they are just as racist as her, so she feels less guilty. I think that's exactly right. That is exactly right. How do biracial and transracial families deal with this? I think that's a really good question, and that's a question I keep coming back to as well. Maxwell, I really don't know, because she doesn't account for that at all in the book. Maybe she does in other places, I don't know, but in the book she does not account for biracial people or transracial people. It doesn't account for it. So I don't know. I think it's a great question. What I suspect it might have to do with is, can they pass as white? That actually might be the question at play. Can they pass as white? Because there's a story in the book, and this was in the first half of the book, so I talked about it in the first video I did. There's a story in the book of her doing a training, and an Italian guy comes up to her, and he says to her, you know, Robin DiAngelo, my family is Italian, and Italians were notoriously discriminated against in this country at the turn of the century. And she says, oh, no, honey. No, you've assimilated to whiteness. So because they can pass as white, they're white. For Robin DiAngelo's purposes, they're white. If you can pass as white, you're white. I don't know what that means for Sean King, but that's his issue to deal with. I think we are all tired of the race baiting. I would tend to agree with that. Student of history says, I wonder if people like her will realize that they've been the cause of actual racism and right-wing extremism by a lot of the comments I've seen the no. Yeah, no, I don't think so. I really don't think that they have the internal awareness and sensibilities to acknowledge their role in any of this. Let's see. Jay says, do you remember the part of Django Unchained where I actually never saw that movie, but where DiCaprio's character was showing off a guy's skull and talking about they're predisposed and subservient because of their brains? I don't remember it, but that sounds about accurate. I mean, listen, it's funny because if you compare this stuff with any white supremacist material, it's going to look the same. It really is. Anna says she redefines racism and therefore everyone is racist. That's very true. Stephanie says, I wish, oh, thank you, Stephanie. Well, I appreciate it, and I will take the $4.99 super chat with gratitude, and I appreciate that. I mean, I had to read this book. I had to know what organizations were teaching people, and I already knew the framework of it, and I understood what the book said, but there is a huge difference between understanding the content and the argument that Robin DiAngelo makes, because I was pretty well versed in her arguments. There is a huge difference between understanding it on a theoretical level and spending, how much time did I spend? Probably 10 hours going through this book line by line and absorbing the absolute nonsense of it. Oh, and this time wasn't as bad for me as last time, but it still was not a pleasant experience. Josie says, thank you for putting yourself out there, Carlin. I'm trying to deprogram so many friends, but it's proving difficult. Sending them over to your channel has helped with some. Make sure you also send them to Unsafe Space. Unsafe Space actually has a whole series of videos called Deprogrammed that are specifically about deconstructing this ideology and explaining it. And they were the ones that taught me. And guys, I know a lot of you have seen videos of my interview with Carrie Smith, who's one of the hosts of Unsafe Space. She was on this channel maybe about a month ago. We were talking about all of the nonsense that was going on, and she's actually coming back. Carrie is going to come back. She's going to be on the channel live next week on Thursday, I believe at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So I hope you'll be able to make it to that discussion, because Carrie is fabulous. She is fabulous. And she was at SJW for 20 years, and she's taught me a lot. Nikki says, hello from Scotland. In the United Kingdom, Scotland is dealing with their own brand of SJWs, aren't they? Michael says, the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture posts on whiteness also directly promoted DiAngelo. They did. And actually the video that they've promoted from her, I've watched it. And it's a good overview of her particular brand of crazy. But yeah, I totally agree. It's crazy to me how so many places are jumping on the bandwagon of this, and it's disgusting and it's irresponsible. And the thing of it is most organizations who are jumping on the bandwagon of White Fragility Crazy Town, they haven't read the book. They don't know what it's about. And they're just doing it willy-nilly because they feel like it's the right thing to do. And I do fundamentally think that a lot of organizations are coming from a good place, but I gotta tell you, like, and I know sometimes you guys don't like it when I get spiritual. I legitimately think this is a spiritually toxic and evil book. This gets inside of you. I feel physically sick right now, and it's not because I'm drinking. I feel physically sick. I feel physically sick like I felt the last time I had to smudge. Guys, I've got sage over here. I've got Palo Santo that I burned. I'm gonna meditate after I get done with this. It's like, it's on, man. Because I need to get this. Like, if this, and what I mean by that is, like, if this stuff gets into your system, it stays there. It does. There's something about this, and I don't understand exactly what it is, but there's something about this that really gets in with people, and it like sucks them into this cult. I've never seen anything like it. I am Scots, Irish, and Cherokee, so I introduce myself by saying, hello, my name is Pooch, and I am screwed. At least you have a sense of humor. How do we turn the tide against this racist movement? I don't know, man, because the thing of it is, and we're actually just talking about this on Unsafe Space, and guys, I'm going to go back into my analysis of White Fragility in a second, don't worry, but this has been around, like, what I think people need to understand is this has been around for a long time. This is not new. This did not start with this book. I have seen training materials about what makes for a white supremacist organization that are over 10 years old. And I believe it's been going on many decades before that is when this started. This has been around for a long, long time. This is not going to go away with the snap of a finger. And that is why it is so, so, so important. If you feel the way I do about this book and this ideology and the toxicity of it, you have got to start speaking up. I know I've been hammering you guys so much lately about speaking up, and I know so many of you are scared to do so, and I appreciate it and I understand it. But this is bigger picture right now. This is not about, listen, this is not about Trump versus Biden or Republican versus Democrat or conservative versus progressive or any of that. This is not about any of that anymore. This is dangerous. This is dangerous to our way of life in this country. And I'm not talking about white. This is not white versus black either. What this is authoritarian versus libertarian. That's what this is. This ideology is an authoritarian ideology that says, do what I say and sit down and shut up and do not ask questions. This is not about race. That is not what this is about, okay? I really need everyone to understand that. We've got to start speaking up. KP asks, according to the Smithsonian, being on time and having a nuclear families is a white thing. People like this are why I got called an Oreo in school for being smart. Bigotry of low expectations. I think that's exactly right. It's incredibly racist. It is, I mean, and not to mention the fact that to call being on time a white thing and to talk about schedules being a part of white culture. I don't know how many of you have been to Machu Picchu. Machu Picchu was built in the 1400s by the Incas. I went there a couple of years ago. They have a sundial. What is a sundial for if not to tell time? The Egyptians made sundials. The Koreans made like, this is not a white thing. And it's just, it's absolutely insane. And I just can't, guys. I can't do it. I'm just trying to get through all the super chats because I really want to acknowledge everyone, and I so appreciate it. You guys, this really does make it possible for me to do so much of this content. And it's very exciting. And I think that, one of the reasons, and I think this goes along with me talking about how important I think this is. One of the reasons I've actually stopped doing a lot of the stuff that I have been doing professionally for a while. I still do workplace stuff. I do coaching, I do training and stuff like that. But I've really scaled back on it to focus more on this because this feels at this point in time much more important than the work. I can always go back and do workplace training later. And I actually have some ideas about doing unwoke workplace training to talk about things like communication style and personal empowerment and confidence and things like that, things that apply to everyone. I have lots of ideas on how to do that. But right now, talking about this and sending these messages into the world seems much more important to me than, training managers on how not to be shitty managers, They're requiring faculty to read White Privilege in a school district here in Nebraska. Having a daughter, it scares the hell out of me. It should scare the hell out of you. Not gonna lie, it should scare the hell out of you. If I had kids, I would not be sending them to public school. I'll tell you that right now. Just want to add, this is required reading at some colleges. Yes, it is. Yeah, I had to when I was in my PhD program, guys. I had to read Unpacking the Invisible Knapsack. I do a whole analysis of it. I'm alt-right, and I think you're catching on why we trolled these people. Yeah, I mean, listen, man, I'm not on board with the alt-right either. I think, come on. But no, I get it. And listen, if I don't even care anymore. If I have to align with that on this particular issue, I will. I don't even care. There are more important things right now. We can bicker about other things later. If the people described in this book are unable to repent, then why should I or anyone change? Because that's the logical endpoint I see for this author. I don't know. That's a really good question. I don't know. I don't know what the incentive to change is. Josh says, I've been following your journey for a while. Welcome to the real world. I'm curious, do you think you'd be more susceptible to D'Angelo's nonsense if you still had Trump derangement syndrome? No. And I've actually asked my husband about this, and my husband, who I trust, is probably watching right now. Hi, Victor, from the downstairs. So I've actually asked him about this, and he says I was never quite as crazy as a lot of people. So no, I think I always would have read this nonsense and have called it batshit insanity. All right. I think I got through all of them, guys. There are more. Oh my goodness. You guys thank you so much for the super chats, guys. I'm sorry. I'm really trying to get to all of them, but if I miss yours or if I don't see it in the chat, I really do apologize, and I'm very appreciative of it. Will you read Irreversible Damage? It's one of the ways I've been able to talk to liberal friends about SJWs. I don't know, man. I need a break. I need to, what I want to read next, I'm actually working on is I'm reading Glenn Beck's Addicted to Outrage. I also have Atlas Shrugged on the list. I need a non-SJW book. Okay. I need a non-SJW book. Thank you for your service. Thank you. I appreciate it. Justin says, mass doctor to psych doctor, let's have a drink to sanity. Yes, to sanity. Everyone drink to that. Cheers. Raise your glasses to sanity. So not waiting for the time to when writing a formula in ancient Greek alphabet will be racist. Oh, it will be. It will be. Don't worry about it. It will be. I was pushed into an honors course in my conservative state university that taught a beginner's version of this ideology back in 1988 or 1998. This is not new. No, it isn't new. And it's going to be just like losing, excuse me. It's going to be like losing weight, okay? It takes a long time to gain weight. That means it takes a long time to lose weight, okay? That's why we all need to be speaking up. We all need to be having these conversations, even when it's uncomfortable. That Smith list, view it more as an attack against free capitalism and promotes authoritarian communism disguised as anti-racism. Yes, it does. I think. Did someone say Victor was here? I think I saw someone. Guys, the chat's going so quick. If I missed it, I'm sorry. Could you consider reading Mary? No, I'm not reading Mary Trump's book. Mary Trump is a liar. Mary Trump is an obvious liar. Did you guys see that interview on Rachel Maddow? She is lying. It's like not even a question. Kendra says, thoughts on being a cover for child trafficking going on with the deep state elite, QAnon. Can you do a show on this after? Yeah, I'm not ready to talk about QAnon right now. I'm sorry. I'm not in a mental health space to talk about that, but maybe on a future live stream. Oh, Victor. See, I told you guys Victor was here. I really am married to a dude of all things. People still question that, by the way, which is why I say that. All right, let's talk about more with White Fragility. Show you guys some more stuff. Oh, so in this one, look at what this says. There is no concept of race or white race before the need to justify the enslavement of Africans. So she's basically saying white people didn't know they were white until they like weren't like, correct me, like someone in the chat tell me, like, weren't Africans enslaving other Africans? I mean, I don't know. That just seemed weird to me. Okay, here she says, oh, I loved this. Affirmative action is a tool to ensure that qualified minority applicants are given the same employment opportunities as white people. It is a flexible program. There are no quotas or requirements as commonly understood. Moreover, white women have been the greatest beneficiaries of affirmative action. So I was really pleased to hear that as a white woman, I was one of the primary beneficiaries of affirmative action. I thought that was news to me. That was a surprise. I just didn't see that coming. Thank you, Matt Jr. I appreciate the super chat. It'll be hilarious once the POCs have their backs against the wall after their usefulness is exhausted. Yeah, I mean, it's not just the people. It's not the people of color who are going to have their backs against the wall. You know who it's going to be is the white, rich liberals that have perpetuated this and have been the saviors of the people that, well, self-perceived white saviors of the people of color. That's who's going to have their back against the wall. Okay, here she writes, anti-Blackness is rooted in misinformation, fables, perversions, projection, and lies. It is also rooted in a lack of historical knowledge and an inability or unwillingness to trace the efforts of history into the present. But perhaps most fundamentally, anti-Blackness comes from deep guilt about what we have done and continue to do, the unbearable knowledge that our complicity with the profound torture of Black people from past to present. Now, the reason, dude, you gave me $5 to tell me to debate with Vosh. Vosh can go fuck himself. Okay? I am in no fucking mood for Vosh. I'm sorry. Like, no. For those of you who don't know what's going on, you don't need to know what's going on. Don't worry about it. It is not ever going to happen. It is a waste of time. So what the reason, backtrack, the reason I picked out this particular phrase is because this is one of those phrases that shows Robin DiAngelo's complicit white fragility. Okay? Not white fragility. Oh my God. I'm picking up the words. Guys, not her complicit white fragility, her inherent racism. This is what this shows. This is her projecting her own racist attitudes and her own white guilt onto all of us. Let's keep going. Okay, this is where she's asserting that all white people take glee in the suffering of Black people. There's a curious satisfaction in the punishment of Black people, the smiling faces of the white crowd picnicking at lynchings in the past, and the satisfied approval of white people observing mass incarcerations and executions in the present. White righteousness, while inflicting pain on African Americans, is evident in the glee of the white that the white collective derives from blackface and depictions of Blacks as apes and gorillas. She's actually asserting that white people, as a collective, are joyful and take glee in people dressing up in blackface and in overtly racist depictions of Black people. And of course, another thing I want you to notice is there are actually citations in this book, but there aren't very many of them. And the way the citations show up is like there's a footnote you can see up at the top here. There's like a number 7. That's like a citation in the back. You can see there are no citations and no evidence to support the notion that the white collective sees anything as the same. Like she provides no evidence throughout her book. Permanently Paranoid, I says, I'm not drinking, but I am stoned. Can I still drink? Yeah, man, I'll be catching up to you later tonight, I'm sure, but you're welcome to join. Let's see. YouTube is blocking one of my super chats. Well, you made it through, my friend, and I thank you for it. Oh, we got some more. Okay, maybe more. Dude, if you want to keep paying money to tell me to debate Vosh, like, you can go right ahead. I don't really care. All right, Nathan B says, appreciate your channel. You mentioned spiritualism. I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts on Paul Harvey's If I Were the Devil segment from 1965. If it doesn't describe today's America, hang on, I'm writing that down. Paul Harvey, If I Were the Devil. I'll give it a watch. And thank you for the recommendation. Dude, more, I mean, come on. That might have actually been the last one. I'm not sure. Sorry guys, I'm just trying to get through the chats again. EJ says, SJWs cheapen the term Nazi. Yes, they do. Now that actual Nazi-ass stuff is happening, people won't say it out loud because it's overused and cliche. Yeah, I mean, there's actual Nazi stuff, guys, going on. Tim Pool talked about this yesterday. I didn't watch a segment on it, but I saw him tweet about it. He talked about how there are kids in juvenile facilities, I think in California, that have been given female hormones as an experiment for like OCD or ADHD or something like that. That's actual Nazi stuff. That's actual Nazi stuff. Experimenting on children by giving them hormones. Like, great. Read Orwell's 1984. Yeah, even if you've read 1984 before, you need to reread it again. Reread 1984, reread Fahrenheit 451, reread Brave New World, reread all of the dystopian. Animal Farm, oh my God, Animal Farm, dude, reread that. Reread all the dystopian fiction because it's not fiction anymore. We're living in the prequel. The counter to this Marxist trash is to read Thomas Sowell's 8 books related to the subject. He is brilliant. I have not read enough of him, and I do need to. Guys, if you're in the chat, please give this a thumbs up. I know there are about 1,800 people here right now. It'd be awesome to break 2,000. I've never had this many people in a live chat before, so that's pretty great, and I really appreciate it. So yeah, please give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. If you think you're subscribed, just double check because YouTube may have made that decision for you. Aaron says, Vosh, stop trying to make debate happen. It's never going to happen. You know, the irony of this is if Vosh had just put on his big boy pants and had sent me an email and asked me himself, instead of sending his minions after me for the last month and a half, I may have said yes. But I'm sure as hell not saying like yes now. I appreciate watching your transition and awakening. I walked away long ago, and once your eyes open, you can't unsee the insanity. Most of this is due to a grossly inadequate and narrow view of history. Dude, once you see it, you can't unsee it, and it's crazy. She is describing how Southern Klansmen view the world. Yep, that's right. Read Shadowrun and the various fluff pieces for it. Okay. All right, let's keep going with white fragility nonsense. Oh, this is a line. I didn't really understand this, but I just thought it was funny. As Coates points out, toiling blacks are in the proper state. Toiling whites raise the specter of white slavery. Coates refers to white people as dreamers and in dream, falsely believing that they are actually white. I take this to mean that whites can only be white if someone is not white. If someone is the opposite of white, white is a false identity, an identity of false superiority. In this sense, whiteness isn't real. So I don't know how to say that. As a white person, do I get a vote in the collective notions justifying this work of fiction? Well, apparently, as we've just learned, whiteness isn't real, so you're not really white. So who the hell knows? I don't know. Who the hell knows? Vosh's minions are putting money in Carlin's pocketbook. Cha-ching! Funding more good content. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Vosh. Appreciate it. Mwah. Fucking Vosh, I swear. I swear. The cheapening of the term Nazi is intentional. Yeah, I think it is. I think you're right. Appreciate you. You are helping me to speak to my 3 woke nieces. I'm very glad to hear that. All right, let's keep going. I'm going to make a t-shirt that says, let's keep going, I think. Okay, so this is more projection from Miss D'Angelo. To put it bluntly, I believe that the white collective fundamentally hates blackness for what it reminds us of, that we are capable and guilty of perpetuating immeasurable harm and that our gains come through the subjugation of others. We have particular hatred for uppity blacks, those who dare to step out of their place and look us in the eyes as equal. That's racist. That's flat racist. That whole freaking thought is racist. That is Robin DiAngelo projecting her racism on to all of us. Isn't it? Isn't it lovely? Isn't it lovely? Let's keep going. Oh, this one I love. So if you guys didn't see my last video on the topic, I essentially talk about like one of the first things Robin DiAngelo says in the very beginning of the book is this is a book for white progressives. She's specifically targeting this book towards white progressives and says you are not guilty, you are the white progressive. She even says that it's something like progressives actually do the most damage to black people, which I think is hilarious in and of itself. But here she reiterates that. She says, we see it in the outrage of the crowd of white progressives who show up to hear Bernie Sanders speak in Seattle and were asked by black activists to grant 4.5 minutes of silence to honor Michael Brown, an unarmed black man shot by police in Ferguson, Missouri, and they responded, "How dare you?" The crowd cried. So this is essentially Robin DiAngelo calling out Bernie Sanders supporters for being racist. I think that deserves a drink. How about you? Cheers. Bernie Sanders supporters, you're not innocent. You cannot escape this. You are, in fact, the most guilty. Rachel says, Atlas Shrugged, iScan, amazing book. It was made into 3 movies. They're close to the book. I've seen those movies. I was not like impressed with those movies. I feel like I'm going to get a lot more context out of the book. From a veteran, thank you for your service. Well, thank you, Rick, legit Rick, for your service. We really appreciate it. Sly says, after being told I have an identity and then told it isn't real, who am I? Who are you? What is this? We're in the simulation. None of this is real. God. Tommy says, Ambrose Bierce predicted it, bigot, and one who is ostensibly and zealously attached to an opinion that you do not entertain. You know, it's funny. Victor sent me a study earlier today, and I haven't read it yet, but I might do a video on it. But Victor, I guess, was watching Joe Rogan, and they were talking about a study that basically says that people don't actually try to have conversations. They just try to convince you of your perspective, of what their perspective is, to try to validate their perspective. So I'm going to be reading that study and maybe do a video on it. Rachel says, I've loved watching your journey. Keep up the fight. Thank you, Rachel. Carl says, there's also brown fragility. Carl, I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can. Michelle, I'm just appreciating every minute of this conversation. Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate you, and I'm very grateful for the super chat. Gay Stranger Tarot says, North Korea punishes children for crimes of their parents. So does DiAngelo and the left. That is very, very true. They do that. All right. Would she count people like Candace Owens as uppity black? Oh, God, I'm sure she would. Right? Oh my goodness. All right, let's keep going. All right, this is, what was I saying here? Oh, this is funny. So she's quoting another person when she says in this quote, the truth is that despite all this, a black man was elected president of the United States, the ultimate advancement and thus the ultimate affront. Because basically she's saying that white people are most offended by black people when they have achievements like being elected president of the United States. Perhaps not surprisingly, voting rights were severely curtailed, the federal government was shut down more than once, and the office of the president was shockingly, openly, and publicly disrespected by other elected officials. Now, they're saying this about Obama, right? This was about Obama, but I read that and I was like, hang on. The federal government, Trump had the longest government shutdown of any president, and Trump is literally disrespected every minute of every day. So how is this a sign of white fragility if they're talking about Obama? They're doing the same thing to Trump. Oh, and in this one, I'm just saying, like, so chapter 6 was all about anti-blackness. And what I found ironic is she never actually provided a definition of anti-blackness in the entire chapter. She did not provide a definition at all. All she did was say, it's complicated. It is too complicated to understand what it means to be anti-black. But you know what she did do? She wrote 4 pages about why the movie The Blind Side is problematic and should be canceled. 4 pages about the movie The Blind Side. Yep, she did. Let's keep going. I just didn't even know what this means. Whiteness repels gossip and voyeurism and instead demands dignity. Maybe we can even read the whole paragraph. Maybe that'll give us more context. Whiteness accrues privilege and status, gets itself surrounded by protective pillows of resources and or benefits of the doubt. How whiteness repels gossip and voyeurism and instead demands dignity. I have no idea what this means. Guys, do you have any idea what this means? I don't know. I have no idea. Let's do some super chats. Why not take a moment off the stressful stuff and instead focus on our impending war with China? China is going to red dawn our asses at any second, and we're all complaining about white fragility. Hey, man, I understand, but you know what's going to help us get through the red dawn style attack war with China? Wine. God, I've been doing this for 50 minutes already. I feel like I've just gotten started. All right, let's see. Please make a shirt that says, let's keep going. Maybe I will. Maybe I will. What about tired mom and annoying kids still home from the college? Oh, Courtney. Courtney's one of my favorites. Neuro Red says, since she says whiteness doesn't exist, doesn't that mean everything she's promoting is BS? So is that infographic? Yeah, I don't think they really care about contradiction. There is a zombie apocalypse. It's SJWs. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. All right, let's keep going. Let's keep going. Oh, this is essentially where she's reiterating some of the stupid nonsense we saw in that infographic. When ideologies such as colorblindness, meritocracy, and individualism are challenged, intense emotional reactions are common. So one of her premises of this book is that every time she calls out racism of white people can't handle it and they lose their shit and they cry and have emotional outbursts and are going crazy. That's one of the premises. So she's basically saying that if you assert that hard work and determination and grit are good, positive things, and that you can be successful in the world when you work hard and, you know, focus on what you want, that's meritocracy, right? That's getting what you want based on merit, based on competency, things like that. That's white. That's whiteness. That's a white problem. And if you question that, if you say, no, you don't need to work hard to get ahead in the world, well, white people just can't handle that. Let's keep going. Oh, this is where she called out. I just thought this was funny. This is where she called out progressives, so-called progressive whites. The only way you can really be progressive is, wait for it, by reading White Fragility and paying Robin DiAngelo tons of money. It's the only way to be progressive. If you don't read White Fragility and pay Robin DiAngelo money, then you are a so-called progressive. That deserves a drink. Guys, if you haven't yet, hit that thumbs up for me, please. Hit the thumbs up. Okay, in this one, this is another example of Robin DiAngelo confessing her own racism. I was a full adult, a parent, and a college graduate before I ever experienced a challenge to my racial identity or position. And that experience was only because I had taken a position as a diversity trainer. When you combine this rarity with my lifetime of racial centrality, internalized superiority, sense of myself as a unique individual, and expectation for racial comfort that our culture engenders, I simply had never been called upon to build my capacity to endure racial stress. So when she's talking about racial stress, that's essentially the idea that white people can't handle their whiteness being questioned and they have emotional outbursts. So what she's saying is like, I had just never thought about my race until I was already out in the professional world, and only then because I had a job as a diversity trainer. So it's her confessing her racism. That's what it is. Okay. Oh, this is fantastic. They just keep getting better. Thus, white fragility is a state in which even a minimum amount of racial stress in the habitus becomes intolerable, triggering a range of defensive moves. These moves include The outward display of emotions such as anger, fear, guilt, and behaviors such as argumentation, silence, and leaving the stress-inducing situation. So you guys remember on that infographic for the museum, they talked about how one of the key characteristics of whiteness was not showing emotions. And then Robin DiAngelo was talking about how one of the characteristics of white fragility is when white people show emotions. So what do you want? Like, what do the intersectionalists want? Do you want us to show emotions or do you want us to not show emotions? I just don't understand. I don't understand what they want from us anymore. Tammy asks, can you write a book called Far Left Fragility, please? No, I'm not going to write that book. I'm thinking about what my next book is going to be. We'll see. I have some ideas. I know I need to write another book. I need the clear direction to manifest itself. Is it legal for my K through 12 kids to introduce anti-racism, the full doctrine? This discriminates by definition, calling all white kids racist. Not only is it legal, they've probably already done it. This is in all the schools. They start teaching this to children, wee little children. They start teaching this very early on. They have probably already done it. If you aren't scared, you damn well should be. So yeah, it's legal. Lucas asks, is this book just a black socialist complaining about how capitalists keep winning arguments against her with facts and using race as an excuse to not have her ideas challenged? Lucas, it's not even that, because I'm going to show you why it's not even that. Robin DiAngelo is white. Robin DiAngelo is not black. Robin DiAngelo is white. So, no, this is a white lady who is a racist complaining about her inherent racism. That's what it is. That's what it is. Let's keep going. Oh, this is just funny because what she does a lot in this book is tell stories. Like, most of this book is anecdotes. And so this is about this is about a story, a training she was doing in an organization. And I just really thought that it was funny that the protagonist was named Karen. So she says, I'm coaching a small group of white employees on how racism manifests in the workplace. One member of the group, Karen, is upset about a request from Joan, her only colleague of color, and is talking over her, apparently. So I just thought that was funny that her name was Karen. Oh, this is something you all need to know. Remarkably, a sense of white superiority and knowledge of racial power codes appear to develop as early as preschool. And then they go on to quote, as in other Western nations, white children born in the United States inherit the moral predicament of living in a white supremacist society. What she's saying here is that we are racist all of our lives. And even earlier in the book, she flat out says that she was racist from the womb. She was racist before she was born because she's white. The more I hear you read lines from this book, the more I think the Bible is less dogmatic than this. The Bible is probably less dogmatic than this. Oh, thank you, Hiker. I appreciate you. Thank you. Let's keep going. Okay, in this one, she says, despite its ubiquity, white supremacy is also unnamed and denied by most whites. If we become adults who explicitly oppose racism, as many do, we often organize our identity around a denial of our racially based privilege that reinforce racist disadvantage for others. What is particularly problematic about this contradiction is that white people's moral objection to racism decreases their resistance to acknowledging their complicity with it. So what I want you to notice here is that she's making broad generalizations about white people. What is particularly problematic is the contradiction is that white people's moral objection to racism increases their resistance to acknowledging their complicity with it. Where's the data? Where's the evidence? She hasn't provided any. She was making broad generalizations about all white people. She does this over and over again throughout this whole book. Broad generalizations about all white people without acknowledging that she's not providing data for it. She's making shit up. Sorry, I have to take a drink of non-wine because my throat is getting dry. And we're getting through this, folks. We're powering through. In this one, I just thought this was funny. When I consult with organizations, they want me to help recruit and retain a more diverse workforce. I am consistently warned that past efforts to address the lack of diversity have resulted in trauma for white employees. She's lying. She's lying. I call Robin DiAngelo's bluff. I consult with organizations. I was doing like a lot more regular work with it up until I started doing this more. But I consulted with a lot of organizations. I have never, not once, been told of trauma that people have experienced. That conversation does not happen. She's blatantly lying. That's just a joke. Okay. Because of the new racial climate in America forbids the open expression of racially based feelings, views, and positions, when whites discuss issues that make them uncomfortable, they become almost incomprehensible. Now, listen, I know I'm enjoying some wine over here, and I know maybe I'm getting a little, I'm not drunk, but I'm definitely getting a little buzzed because I haven't eaten much today. But I just want to ask you guys, am I incomprehensible? Are you not able to comprehend what I'm saying? Have I been unclear in any way? And it's not necessarily that I'm uncomfortable, but I just love this broad generalization that anytime we talk about race, all those silly white people, they just become incomprehensible. Like, what the fuck? Okay, here she's talking about it as a form of bullying. Let me be clear. While the capacity for white people to sustain challenges to our racial positions is limited and in this way fragile, the effects of our responses are not fragile at all. Hang on, I'm going to cough. I'm going to mute myself for 1 sec so you guys don't have to hear it. Drink. Clear that cough with some wine. Okay. The effects of our responses are not fragile at all. They are quite powerful because they take advantage of historical and institutional power and control. We wield this power and control in whatever way is most useful in the moment to protect our positions. Now listen, I spent 1.5 years of my life researching and writing an entire doctoral dissertation about workplace bullying. Robin DiAngelo is asserting that white fragility is the same as bullying. I can emphatically say that it is not the same as workplace bullying. It is not remotely the same. Any definition of workplace bullying is not remotely around white people using their whiteness in order to gain more power and control. That has no resemblance to an actual instance of workplace bullying at all, showing again that Robin DiAngelo doesn't know what the F she's talking about. All colors are cashing in on racism. Read The Iron Triangle, exposed by Vince Everett Ellison, the author and an actual Black person. Imagine that, reading a book by an actual Black person. What a concept. Return to Reason says emotionally abusive people invalidate you, accuse you of being too sensitive or too emotional, and manipulate, control, making you feel guilty. Yeah, I was actually just having this conversation with a member of my locals community the other day, and I'm going to try to, he actually has done a lot of research into this, and I'm trying to organize a chat to bring him on here and talk about how this stuff is very similar to an emotionally abusive relationship. I understand you completely. Do you think this is a social experiment, money grab, or legit insanity? I think it could be all of the above. I really do. Love a buzz. Oh, hi, Chrissy. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, let's keep going. That's the workplace bullying thing. Okay. White fragility is much more than mere defensiveness or whining. It may be conceptualized as the sociology of dominance. Sociology, by the way, is notorious. Listen, I know that I studied psychology, and that's not exactly, for a lot of you, the most academically sound thing to study, but sociology is notorious for being awful in terms of academic rigor and that sort of thing. An outcome of white people's socialization into white supremacy and a means to protect, maintain, and reproduce white supremacy. Now, notice she's provided no sources. So she's defining white fragility here and saying an outcome of white people's socialization into white supremacy and a means to protect, maintain, and reproduce white supremacy. She's provided no sources or data or evidence to back up what she's saying. Oh, of course, I am also white. Okay, let me read the whole sentence actually. At this point in my career, I rarely encounter the kind of open hostility that I was met with in my early days as a facilitator. I attribute this change to the years of experience behind my pedagogy. Of course, I am also white, which makes other white people much more receptive to the message. I am often amazed at what I can say to groups of primarily white people. So what she's saying there, like, Robin DiAngelo is basically admitting, like, I'm shocked and amazed at what I can get away with all these white people who are buying into my shit. Like, she's basically admitting it in so many words. John McWhorter's critique of white fragility in the Atlantic. Yes, I read that recently. That's very good. I actually passed that on to a person I know that was going to get her whole team to read White Fragility, and I was like, you might want to read this. Josh says, if you're looking for actual good books on race, read Aisha Manji's Don't Label Me. I'll definitely check that out. Let's see. Best DJ AF. When I told my dad that I depressed, he said that I am just bored and he has no time for depression. He made me wash the toilet until I feel better, and I think people who clean toilets and think of people who clean toilets 24/7 and no time to get depressed. I mean, at least you have a purpose. You're doing something productive. Like, I fundamentally believe that there are creators and destroyers in the world, right? And so if you're focusing your energy on creating something or doing something productive, that's always a better way to be. Honestly, oftentimes it will actually help you feel better too. I am grateful that my company is not crazy and just made a few pro forma statements and donated to a Black youth charity. Yes. You know what? Hey, man, best case scenario. Best case scenario these days. A drunk Curlin is more comprehensible than a sober DiAngelo. Tammy gets the super chat of the day so far. I love it. I'm not quite drunk yet, but I love it. Thank you, Tammy. Let's keep going. Okay. That's not really that. These just aren't really interesting. I was just mostly complaining. Oh, here she says, racism is the norm rather than an aberration. Don't worry. Like, it's okay. Guys, it's totally normal to be racist. Racism is the norm, not abnormal at all. Don't feel bad about your inherent racism. Racism is just the norm. It's just the way it is. White fragility is also evidenced in the need for so many white people to build trust before they can explore racism in workshops, support groups, and other educational forums. Many who are involved in racial justice education will recognize this white call for racial trust, which surfaces in a variety of ways. And I'm not going to go into the ways, but essentially she's saying, how dare you silly white people expect that we build trust before I tell you that you're racist for 3 hours. Perhaps you should start a book club to read through these books. I actually do have a book club. I have a book club in my locals. I'm going to be announcing the next book soon, but don't worry, in my locals, we are not going to read crazy shit like this. We're going to read fun and helpful things. If you want to join my locals, the link is in the description below. Hang on, I need a drink. I'm having water in this one. Let's see. Hang on. I thought I saw another super chat. There it is. This book and the insane flyer at the Black History Museum is textbook gaslighting / brainwashing. How can no one see this? Pure merchants taxes. Well, listen, man, I got to tell you, like, we had almost 2,000 people in here earlier. I mean, we got almost 1,600 right now. A lot of people are seeing it. So don't feel so alone. A lot of people see this. We need a little perspective. I was raised by a racist. I know what it looks like, and I have rarely seen it over the last couple of decades. I think, Dave, a little perspective would be great. All right. This is one of Robin DiAngelo's favorite things to say, is that if you say that you take a non-judgmental approach and you don't judge people, she says this all the time. She says this in the video that's on the African American History Museum webpage. She says, it is not possible as a human being to refrain from judging people. Now, guys, if you're new, if you don't know, hang on, I'm going to make myself big for a second. I wrote a whole book about mindfulness in the workplace. It's called Zen Your Work, right here. It's all about mindfulness strategies you can use in the workplace, okay? The reason I bring this up is part of this book is based on one of the core mindfulness principles that exists, which is the principle of non-judgment. Trying not to subscribe value to things, or if you are going to put value on things, you put the value that is most beneficial to you. So if you find yourself judging something, you say, Carlin, that Red Sox hat is stupid. Well, that's a judgment, okay? So maybe you want to stop yourself, say, hey, you know what? Maybe I don't think that hat is stupid. Maybe I think that hat is actually pretty awesome. You can change your judgments when you become aware of them. But the only way to do that is just to kind of stop yourself, become aware, and then make a conscious decision. Robin DiAngelo doesn't know this because she has no idea. I'm sure she doesn't study mindfulness. I'm sure she doesn't meditate. I'm sure she doesn't do any of the things. Robin DiAngelo would have greatly benefited from meditation as a child. I'll tell you what. So someone asked me a couple weeks ago on, I think, my last happy hour live stream, like, what would you do with kids to keep them from becoming crazy people like Robin DiAngelo? Make them meditate. Have them meditate. There are actually schools that they replace detention and punishment with meditation. And when they do that, the kids do better in school. They're more focused. They're more calm. Lots of benefits of meditation. Robin DiAngelo really should have meditated as a child. This is like MST3K for this book. Yeah, pretty much, right? You just need to add a couple of robots and an invention exchange with the evil scientists who made you read this book. Well, sadly, I made myself read this book, so we're just going to have to go. We're just going to have to go with it. Drink. All right. Assume good intentions. So it is not apparently a good thing in Robin DiAngelo's world to assume good intentions. By emphasizing intentions over impact, this guiding privileges the intentions of the aggressor over the impact of their behavior. So one of the things I've always taught about the workplace is that you have to assume positive intent of other people. So by saying that good intentions don't matter and we really shouldn't care about intentions at all, this woman can go fuck herself. This woman is going to ruin so many workplaces with this nonsense. Given that the goal of anti-racist work is to identify and challenge racism and the misinformation that supports it, all perspectives are not equally valid. Some are rooted in racist ideology and need to be uncovered and challenged. So what Robin DiAngelo is saying here, essentially, is that not all perspectives are equal, but some perspectives are more equal than others. This is literally Animal Farm in action. What she's saying is that the perspectives of white people are not equal to the perspectives of Black people. What could possibly go wrong? What could possibly go wrong with this notion? Pocket says, if you're into mindfulness and meditation, check out the Wonder Method. It will blow your mind. I've never heard of the Wonder Method, but I will write that down. Wonder Method. Okay. Thank you for that, Pockets. Let's see. Clayton said, some are saying they're going to make this book required reading for government employees and contractors. Free Michigan. Yeah, that's terrifying. That is actually terrifying to me. And frankly, if they do this, oh, I hope people rise up and start speaking up. All right. Many of us see emotions as naturally occurring, but emotions are political in two key ways. Now, I'm not going to go into the two key ways because frankly, they're stupid, but who in the holy hell gave Robin DiAngelo the idea that emotions are not naturally occurring? Who in the hell? But like the most powerful decision-making part of our brain. Well, I mean, that's actually not true. The most powerful decision-making part of our brain is about our survival mechanism. It's what we need to do to survive. It makes decisions based on food, survival, or sex. The second most powerful decision-making part of our brain, the number 2, if you will, it's all about emotions. It's all about emotions. It's the part of the brain in which our emotions come from. So to say that emotions are not natural, but just political, absolute nonsense. It is absolute nonsense. It's just not correct. What? Oh, this is my favorite chapter was the White Women's Tears chapter. It was fantastic. White women's tears in cross-racial interactions are problematic for several reasons connected to how they impact others. For example, there is a long historical backdrop of Black men being tortured and murdered because of a white woman's distress, and we white women bring those histories with us. So essentially, it's saying that that white women are responsible for all the negative things that have happened to Black men throughout history. Let's keep going. Because of its seeming innocence, well-meaning white women cry in the cross-racial interactions in one or more pernicious enactments of white fragility. So women are not allowed to be upset and are not worthy of comfort. A Black man willing to express a point referred to him and at a point referred to himself as stupid. My co-facilitator, a Black woman, gently countered, that he was not stupid, but that society would have him believe that he was. So let's just pause there. This woman in a facilitation actually told the Black man that society wants to make you think that you're stupid. That's racist. Like, what in the holy hell? As she was explaining the power of internalized racism, a white woman interrupted with, what he was trying to say was, when my co-facilitator pointed out that the white woman had reinforced the racist idea that she could best speak for the Black man, the woman erupted in tears. So this Black man was struggling to find his words, which happens with all of us. He said something probably self-deprecating. I'm going to imagine it was probably said kind of sarcastically, because usually we don't say, like, we usually just as people don't call ourselves stupid in front of our coworkers. And the facilitator took it seriously because these people have no senses of humor. They don't know what self-deprecation is. And then one of his coworkers spoke up to try to help him, and she was called a racist and got upset about it. And that's what they're using as an example to point out white fragility and white women's tears. Best DJAF says they're kicking Jewish professors and deans out of academia. SJWs are calling them male in power, socialist communists, alt-right don't like Jews, even the Labour UK Democrats, US and Women's March. I'm sick of the word problematic thesaurus lately. Yeah, for real. The fact that you subjected yourself willingly to what I consider the literary form of hysterical self-gratification. You're a mad lad, Carlin. Thank you, Anthony. I appreciate that. All right, we're almost done. I promise we're almost done. Okay, this is where D'Angelo's confessing more of her own nonsense. Whether intended or not, a white woman cries over some aspect of racism. All attention immediately goes to her, demanding time, energy, and attention from everyone in the room when they should be focused on ameliorating racism. So essentially what she's saying is, you white women, you think you're worthy of kindness and empathy, but you are not. I am convinced that Robin DiAngelo actually hates herself and is projecting her own self-hatred on to all of us. Oh, this one's pretty great. Imagine first responders at the scene of an accident rushing to comfort the person whose car struck a pedestrian while the pedestrian lies bleeding in the street. So essentially what she's saying is she's comparing showing compassion and empathy to white women to first responders letting someone die in the street. That's what she's doing. She's comparing showing compassion and empathy to a white woman to EMTs showing up and letting the victim of an accident die in the middle of a street. Now, what I want to point out here is that the attention of EMTs, that's a finite resource, right? So if you show up at the scene of an accident Of course, you are going to expend your energy as a finite resource to the person who is most in need. Compassion and empathy is not a finite resource. We don't run out of it. You can show compassion and empathy to Black people, and you can at the same time show compassion and empathy to white people. It is really that simple. Tears that are driven by white guilt are self-indulgent. When are we marred in guilt? We are narcissistic and ineffective. Guilt functions as an excuse for inaction. And what I said here is, this is D'Angelo talking to herself, saying she is a racist, she is ineffective, and she has white guilt and is undeserving of self-indulgent compassion. Oh, this one's great. So this is under the heading "The Men Who Love Us." In addition to the general dynamics discussed thus far, white women's tears in cross-racial discussions have a very specific effect on men. So what she's saying is that white women cry to manipulate the men around them. And she actually says later, she actually says later, men of color may also come to the aid of white women in these exchanges and may be driven by their conditioning under sexism and the patriarchy. So even if white men come to the aid of white women, it's simply because white women put them under a spell with their white women's tears. And so the only thing I could think of when I read this, I was thinking back to Henry VIII in old time like England, and I was thinking about when he put Anne Boleyn on trial because he wanted to get rid of Anne Boleyn as his wife and marry the new woman that he had found. What they said in Anne Boleyn's trial was that she engaged in witchcraft, right? She was a witch that was out to seduce the king, and that's what happened when she got Henry to fall in love with her and all this stuff. It was nonsense. Robin DiAngelo is basically saying the same thing here. But it's not all fake. I have to beg women to move an inch. They pretend I don't exist and are pushing me into traffic. I am either hot, tall Spanish guy or dirty Mexican guy. I mean, I think that, listen, I'm going to put this back on you. I think like a lot of times that happens, and listen, this stuff used to happen to me too, right? A lot of times that happens when we don't have our own self-worth built up enough. And so like my first recommendation, if you feel yourself getting pushed around by members of the opposite sex or not getting the type of attention you want, is you got to empower yourself and get to a place where you feel really good. Because it doesn't matter. Like, your looks don't matter at the end of the day. Listen, like, I'm not the hottest girl in the world, but I have a husband that loves me, and, you know, he thinks I'm okay. And I was able to get there because, you know, it wasn't about that. It was about confidence. It was about loving myself. And, you know, I was able to attract a good guy because of it. So don't underestimate the power of how you feel about yourself, man. I think I got all the super chats. All right, let's keep going. That's not a good one. Oh, first, once I was aware that I had behaved problematically, I took the time to process my reaction with another white person. So essentially what happened here is Robin DiAngelo did something overtly racist to a Black colleague. Like, it was, she made a comment about Black women's hair in a meeting or something. And that's racist because Robin DiAngelo is a racist, right? And so, but she didn't notice that she did it at the time, and, you know, she upset that colleague, and then the other colleague that she was with told her, like, you were kind of racist. They called her out. And so instead of just going to the Black colleague and having a conversation, what Robin DiAngelo did was gossip about the incident to a white colleague in order to process her white woman's feelings about the fact that she had just been racist to a Black colleague. And she had to do that. She had to gossip with a white colleague before having a conversation with her Black colleague. We've done that one. This is probably the best example of Robin DiAngelo confessing her own racism in this entire book. Many people of color have assured me that they will not give up on me despite my racist patterns. They expect that I will have racist behavior given the society that socialized me. Robin DiAngelo's colleagues expect her to be racist. I am sometimes asked whether my work reinforces and takes advantage of white guilt. I told you guys about that one earlier, right? Then we get to the quote in which I started, and that's basically it, guys. That's White Fragility. We got through it. I told you we were going to get through it. Listen, again, man, this book is insane. This book is actually insane. And if you have to read this book, just go based on the notes, or go read, you know what? Go read stuff on New Discourses about it, James Lindsay's site. Do not read this book. Do not allow this book to get into your... In fact, you know what? I've been wanting to do that all day. And it actually landed on a bookshelf, which is kind of funny. I've been wanting to do that all day. Throw the book across the room. All right, we got a couple last super chats. Oh, Van Gogh. Such a flatterer. Thank you. I'm not going to cry, man. I'm not a fragile woman with white woman's tears, please. Tammy says progressives like to cover up their own stupidity with big words. Ain't it the truth? And then Best DJAF, and thank you again for the super chat, my friend. It's about getting to work. I have to beg to get through. It's not about the self. I have to dress nice for work. It's just about how women feel about me, and I don't care. I need to get to work. Man, like, I'm telling you, man, I am telling you, if you feel better about yourself and you stop worrying about what the ladies want, but just feel really good about yourself, feel confident about yourself, you're going to attract women. It's all about confidence. Listen, look at me. Listen, Best DJF. I want you to understand this. Listen, I'm like a fat white girl that's not wearing makeup at all right now. I'm sweaty because it's hot as hell in my office. How many people in this chat are like, Curlin, you're hot? Please. It's not about looks at all. It's about confidence. Well, my lips are all fucked up because I've been biting them. I mean, come on, man. I'm not hot, but people think I am, apparently. All right, guys. That's all I have for this live stream. I've been going for almost an hour and a half now, and I'm starting to lose my voice, as you can tell. But thank you for hanging in with me. I really appreciate it. This is my biggest live stream yet, almost 2,000 people. So I'm pretty grateful for it. I'm so grateful for all the super chats. Your support really does help me to do more and more and more of this, and let go of crazy organizational work I have to do. And actually, you know what? It gives me the freedom. It gives me the freedom to say what I want. Because if I still had to depend, especially right now, of all times, if I had to depend on organizations for my income, I would not be able to do this. And so your support really, really does mean the world, and I am so incredibly grateful for it. And again, if you're here, make sure you're subscribed to my channel. Make sure you turn on those notifications. If you think you're subscribed, make sure you double check just to make sure. And I hope to see you again soon. I've got some good videos queued up for the weekend. And I hope you all have a great weekend. And yeah, I have at least one awesome live stream next week with Carrie Smith of Unsafe Space. That's going to be on Thursday. I will possibly have another one. We're going to see. I'm trying to get it on the books. And there might be some other places you guys are seeing me next week that I'm going to keep a secret for right now. But I'm really excited about it. Very grateful to all of you. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and we'll catch you later.